Hey everyone, this is Brandon.
And John.
And welcome to TheCommandZone.com. Today we're here to talk about the top 10 EDH lands.
First on our list we chose was the Command Tower.
Yeah, the Command Tower is a very interesting land. It was printed exclusively once Wizards started supporting the Commander format, and it's really great, I think. Not as awesome as some of the other lands we're going to see on this top 10, but it's really great because it produces mana of any color for your Commander.
Right. Now it kind of, edged its way into our top 10 only because it produces one color of any mana that your general can produce. It can't really be fetched by any of the fetches, any of the traditional spells that do fetch lands. So for that reason, it is fairly high up on the list.
That's right. Number 10 on our list. But great if you want to make sure that you're hitting all your colors on a 2, 3, or 5 color deck.
Yeah, definitely. As well, it's very cheap. So because they've reprinted this card, I believe 2 or 3 times now, and it's going to be at least the third coming next year with the next Commander set. And they actually have foils of this available now.
That's true. Judge promos, I believe.
Right, Judge promos, and from the
Arsenal.
Commander Arsenal. The card is $1.50. So
yeah.
it's something you really need to pick up for all of your decks.
I think it definitely goes in, and that's why it gets the number 10 spot.
Yep. Next on our list is my personal favorite land. It's Ancient Tomb. Ancient Tomb is probably the most powerful colorless mana source that you can possibly have in EDH.
Absolutely right. If you think about the other kinds of effects that you can get from something like this, you're thinking maybe Soul Ring or Mana Crypt. And Ancient Tomb is just so much better because it's in the form of a land. The 2 damage is negligible. It's less than a Mana Crypt. And its reach. It's extreme. It's like making 2 land drops in one, even though it produces colorless.
Right. I mean, Ancient Tomb allows you to play a Cultivate or Kodama's Reach on turn 2. It allows you to play a Coalition Relic on turn 2. These are all very, very important things that have to be done for a successful EDH game. And
remember, that 2 life, pretty negligible when it comes down to it. Tapping that 3 or 4 times is not going to make that much difference, especially early game. It's going to be very strong.
Right. And, like its counterpart, City of Traders, it doesn't die when you put another land into play. So, for that reason, Ancient Tomb is number 9 on our list.
Yep. Alright, number 8 on our list of top 10 Commander lands is the Gruesome Twosome, known as Cabal Coffers and Urborg. Awesome combination of cards. Just a quick rundown. Urborg turns all your lands, in fact, all lands into swamps, so yours and your opponent's. And Cabal Coffers, when tapped, 2 colorless in itself, will produce black mana equal to the number of swamps you control.
Exactly. So if you have 7 lands on board, you will in fact generate 7 mana out of a Cabal Coffer's activation. So it's very broken in black, or really any color that uses black, to cast any larger spells, X spells, like a large Exsanguinate. You can untap Cabal Coffers and make even more mana. Yeah,
that's absolutely right. So strong. Of the 2, we tend to agree that the Urborg is stronger than the Cabal Coffers. However, I think when you look at a mono-black deck, maybe Cabal Coffers is the stronger of the 2. But Urborg is great because not only does it help you produce Cabal Coffer mana, but it also fixes your mana. In fact, things like Maze of Ith and colorless producing lands now become color producing lands.
That's a really good point. Yeah, Cabal Coffers and Urborg are together a very, very strong combination. Big mana, lots of fun stuff. You should buy it. Urborg is going up though recently because of Modern. Urborg is hitting about $30 now. So please take advantage of that, or if you can, get them before they go up, because they are going to go up. I think they're going to hit about $40 in the future. Okay?
Yeah, sounds good. That's number 8 on our list.
All right. Alright, so next on the list is number 7, and that's the Resurrection lands, in the form of Volrath Stronghold and Academy Ruins. Now, these 2 are very powerful because they allow you to get more value out of the spells in your deck, be it creatures you want to draw, generate mana, you want to have some disruption, creature removal, whatever it is, these 2 can provide answers to that.
Absolutely right. When we look at Volrath Stronghold, we look at things like, say you're playing black removal, or you're playing green ramp creatures. They die. They happen to die, and you need them back. Using Volrath Stronghold is very good. Putting it back on the top of your library, end of turn, or in response to a draw, means you get that back in your hand, and you have that tool again. You have that utility. With Academy Ruins, you've got things like mana-producing artifacts, things like a Chroma's Memorial that are very strong, that die essentially to removal spells. And of course, if you really, really, really want to get mean, you put in Mindslaver in Academy Ruins, and everybody at the table will hate you, I guarantee it.
Exactly. So number 7.
Recursion lands.
Recursion.
All right, guys, number 6 on our list is Gaia's Cradle. Now, when we talk about good lands in EDH, Gaia's Cradle really almost becomes the epitome of that. We looked at Urborg, we looked at Cabal Coffers, we looked at the way that they produced mana and their efficiency. Well, we're taking efficiency to a whole new level with Gaia's Cradle.
Yeah, of course. I mean, anyone who's running a green deck knows that Gaia's Cradle is the #1 land you need to get as soon as possible in order to win the game. And that is really evident in Legacy with Legacy Elves, and that has really pushed the price of a Gaia's Cradle up to about $130, $140.
Oh, it's amazing to see how expensive this land is. And, you know, if you were to play it in your deck, you'd see why right away. I mean, it begs for creatures. It begs for things like Avenger of Zendikar in your deck. I mean, just imagine playing Prosh in a Gaia's Cradle and the amount of mana you can gain from it.
Right. I mean, making 10 mana, 5 mana off of Gaia's Cradle is insane. It doesn't cost anything, and it's a Gilded Lotus. It's whatever you want it to be. It's a huge mana producer, and for that, it's number 6 on our list.
All right, next up on our top 10 Commander lands are the Protection lands, in the form of Corehaven and Maze of Ith. Two very good lands that are a little different than our mana producers in the fact that they are defensive utility.
Correct, yeah. So now, actually, you know what? I believe that Maze of Ith is a little bit better than Corehaven because it can be used in any deck, whereas you have a stipulation on Corehaven that it's, you know, in a white deck, and I hate playing white, so I will never ever play with Corehaven.
And you know what? It's your choice, obviously, whether you like white, whether you don't like white. It's always a good addition to a deck with white in it. It doesn't have to be a mono white deck. But yeah, I agree. I think we're right, or I think John's right in saying that Maze of Ith is a little bit stronger in here in the fact that you don't need mana to put into it to use its effect, and it's very solid. I mean, it essentially keeps you from taking any damage from an attacking source of a creature.
Right, and that's also evident by the price of these two cards. Maze of Ith is about $23, and Corehaven's only about $5. So you can tell, I mean, just from the restrictions on Corehaven, that Maze of Ith is slightly better, although they perform the same duty in a deck.
Yeah, so don't forget them when you're thinking about putting in some utility cards for defensive purposes in your decks.
Yep, that's number 5, Protection. All right, hit number 4 on our list is the two of the best lands ever produced. We have Wasteland and Strip Mine. These two lands do everything for a deck. They will win you a game immediately. They are just amazing if you play them, and you can get your opponents off of mana.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, what's really great about these lands, besides the fact that they produce colorless on their own, so they produce color and they produce mana, so you're not missing a land drop 1. 2, any of the other lands that we've mentioned in our top 10 list, whether it comes to Gaia's Cradle or some of the ones you'll see in the next few slots, these two lands will take care of those lands and will essentially keep you from losing to major mana producers, get through with your attacking creatures. They're just such good utility.
Right. I mean, maybe Darksteel Citadel should have made our list because it is the only land in Magic that just does not fold to these two. I mean, hitting your opponent with a Strip Mine on turn 2 or 3 is just so strong at stopping them from cultivating, you know, a board presence or whatever it is. It's just an amazing set of cards. And oddly enough, Strip Mine, the best card, is very cheap.
It is very cheap. It's only a couple bucks, and the reason for it being because it's so good. $2 card to remove any land. I mean, there's a reason that one's so cheap and Wasteland's so expensive.
Right. Now, the Strip Mine has been banned in every single format except for Vintage. And Wasteland is obviously a Legacy staple, and it's $100. So, I mean, if you had a choice of which land to get, I would choose Strip Mine, but they're both excellent lands. So if you have them sitting around, play them in your decks.
So that's number 4 on our list, Wasteland and Strip Mine.
We finally made it. Number 3 on our list, we have the Shock lands. Now, these are 10 of some of the most powerful lands in the format. They are, you know, 2 basic land types, pretty much, and you can fetch them out with any of the spells that fetch forest cards or island cards, mountain cards. So they're very powerful, and they should be in every deck if you can afford them.
That's absolutely right. And honestly, when it comes to affordability, you'll see later in our list, in our top spot, in fact, a little teaser, we have something very similar to the Shocklands, but are much more expensive and have somewhat of a caveat. The Shocklands are really great because, as John was mentioning, you can fetch them out with things like Farseek or Fetch Lands, and they'll come into play, if you like, untapped, for a cost.
For a cost, exactly. So this is the way to make, or the way that Wizards decided to make the dual lands fair. And so we call these shock lands because if you want them to come in untapped, obviously, you will take 2 damage for that, which is also a 1-mana red spell called Shock. Okay, so if you're playing, you know this, very powerful spells, the shock lands.
Shock lands, they make a number 3 on our list. All right, guys, we're almost there. Number 2 on our top 10 commander land list are the fetch lands. They're a set of lands that were originally printed in Onslaught, revisited in Zendikar, and let you search for one of 2 basic land types when you use them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, these are some of the most powerful lands ever produced. You can pay 1 life to search for pretty much any land in your deck that is a basic land type. So it will fetch you shocks, it will fetch you duels. These lands are also very powerful because they do fit into any deck that has a forest or an island. So, for example, if you're playing, I don't know, an Azuri Renegade Leader mono green EDH deck, you can still play a Misty Rainforest, a Wooded Foothills, a Windswept Heath, Verdant Catacombs, etc. Now, you can do all this because they search for a forest or another land type, and we are only interested in the forest, which makes them extremely powerful and, you know, one of the best lands you can have in an EDH deck.
That's right. Just the fact that they do not have the colored mana symbol on it means you get to run them. So even though they say forest, they're still good in a blue deck, for instance. So yeah, number 2 on our list are the fetch lands.
Last but certainly not least on our list are the dual lands. The only lands on our list that are on the reserve list by Wizards of the Coast. They will never be reprinted, and therefore they are going to go up, up, up into infinity.
Yeah, these lands are really the very top of our list because far and away they're better than the fetch lands, and essentially they do the same thing where they have 2 basic land types. They can be fetched by fetching cards like the Onslaught and Zendikar fetches. They can be pulled out of the deck with things like Farseek. And they're just so fantastic at making your colors what they need to be. And they come into play untapped without taking any damage as well.
Right, so I mean, unlike the Shocklands, Wizards said, oh man, we made these spells way too powerful in the, in the early days of Magic, and we need to reconfigure these lands so that they are fair for players, because what these lands are doing is just so broken. So obviously, the dual lands are better than the Shocks, better than the fetches. They do everything you need and more.
Yeah, as John mentioned earlier, it's definitely reflected in the price and the fact that they're not being reprinted. So it's really not for the best budget-minded deck builder. But that's why you have the Shocks out there, and that's why if you really need to put that kind of effect in your deck, you've got the Shocks. But if you really want to take it up to that next level, consider the dual lands. They're number 1 on our list, and they're just so, so good.
Exactly. Number 1?
Number 1, duels.